It's time for this week's episode of Brandon Sports Talk, featuring in-depth interviews from those who are trending in the world of athletics. And now, here's the host of Brandon Sports Talk, Brandon Pate.
Welcome back to Brandon Sports Talk. In today's episode, I have the privilege to interview the Baldwin Wallace head swimming and diving coach, Coach Laura Demaline. How are you doing today?
Hi, I'm good, Brandon. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Can you talk about how you knew that you wanted to get started in coaching in college swimming and diving?
Yeah, so truthfully, I was a pre-law and political science major. I was all set to go off to law school. And growing up in the Cleveland area, knew that the head swimming and diving coach at Cleveland State really well, Wally Morton. He retired. Oh goodness, it was probably 9 or 10 years ago now. And I had spoken to him about potentially coming back to Cleveland for law school, and would I be able to coach with the Cleveland State swim team. I started coaching summer league when I was 14. It was just what I had always done. And he informed me that law students were not allowed to hold those roles on campus. Obviously there's a lot of work involved in going to law school, and I was pretty disappointed. And my mom actually pulled me aside and she said, honey, this should be a time in your life that you're really excited about what you're doing. You got into law school, you're achieving those goals, but you seem disappointed. And I said, I just always thought that I always thought I would coach swimming. I guess I'm surprised to find out that I'm not going to be able to do that anymore. And she said, honey, you might want to go down that path a little bit more and really figure out what you want to do before you take on something like this. And so I deferred law school for 1 year and started my master's in education, and started coaching at the high school level. And I just absolutely fell in love with it. And that passion that I think they were looking for towards my law career, that I found that in coaching. And so when I moved to Buffalo in 2004, I had the opportunity to talk with the athletic director at Canisius College, and it just sort of, I don't want to say that the career fell into my lap, but in some ways that really is how quickly it happened. And I haven't looked back, and I've loved every day of it. Maybe not every minute, but I've loved every day.
Of course, what was that transition like? As you said, you were a law student and you were going to go into law, but then getting into college coaching and going to Canisius.
Yeah. Brandon, at that point, I really hadn't had, I had not had any female coaches. And other than my head coach at St. Bonaventure, really none of my coaches had done this as their full-time job. And so I always imagined that I would have a job and then coach additionally. So having that opportunity at Canisius to really get into coaching full-time and have being a swim coach be what I do, there was certainly a learning curve, because I think a lot of coaches have sort of grown through the role, started as a GA, moved into an assistant coaching role, and then have their first head coaching role. That's not the path that I was on. And so that it was definitely a learning curve. But I will say that the courses that I took in political science and pre-law, I felt that I was well prepared to handle the workload. And I knew I loved swimming. And so I took it on as a challenge to be the best coach I could be, and learn from the coaches that I had swam for, take the things that I liked, and then some of the things maybe I didn't like as much, leave those, and That was nearly 20 years ago.
Of course, what was that experience like getting to compete in D1 swimming at St. Benedict?
So St. Bonaventure is one of the smallest Division I schools in the country. I believe we had, and I might be completely off, but I want to say we had about 1,300 students on campus while I was there. I guess I knew I wanted to compete at the Division I level. It was something that when I was looking at schools, that's sort of where I honed in my focus. I would say in the late 90s, so I graduated from high school in 1999. In the late 90s, there were only a handful of Division III programs that had full-time head coaches, and so for me, it just felt like Division I was going to be the better level for me to swim at. So that's kind of where we narrowed our search. I looked at a lot of really big schools and then visited St. Bonaventure last. And something about the Franciscan tradition, and it was such a close-knit community, you know, and everybody just loved being there. It was something that when I stepped foot on campus, I just absolutely connected with the school and knew that's where I needed to be. For me, it was very similar. The practice schedule, the meet schedule is very similar to what I had experienced in high school and club swimming. So that wasn't necessarily the transition piece. I think the biggest transition was being 3 hours away from home and kind of navigating those challenges. But it was a really great experience. I loved racing with my teammates, and I was very fortunate to have some really great women to train and compete with.
Coming out of college, what was that like getting your first coaching job and being a head coach versus going the grad assistant route?
Yeah. So again, I didn't know as much about the careers. I think I wish I would have. So it wasn't until I was in coaching that I started to recognize that there was sort of a natural growth plan that was already in place. My first year coaching at Canisius, the graduate assistant I had was actually older than me. And so, and there was one swimmer on our team, Peter Vanderhusen, who also ran cross country at Canisius, who was a full year older than me. And so that was, you know, I would be lying if I didn't say that a lot of people mistook me for one of the athletes, you know, and at the time it was, no, I'm the coach. Now, when they mistake me for an athlete, I accept the compliment. But it was something where I just had to, I guess, acknowledge that I was learning as I went. And that's something in my first year, I didn't have the maturity to be able to be honest about that yet, that I didn't know everything. I knew I loved swimming, and that I started there, and really took my second, third, and fourth year at Canisius to try and learn from the people that were around me, and, you know, try to build. We started the men's program my first year there. So they had a women's program. The men's program had been cut and they brought it back. So a lot of my 4 years was trying to really build a stronger foundation for the swimming and diving program.
Of course, being the head coach at a young age at Canisius, what challenges did you face with being so close in age with your swimmers?
Yeah, I think some of it was we were really still growing up. I mean, our college age athletes, they are young men and women. Don't get me wrong, they can vote, they can go and fight and defend our country. I mean, they are young adults, but there's still a lot of life experience that happens in your 4 years in college that help, you know, lay that base for the person that you're going to be as an adult. And I was just outside of that. And so I was a young wife and, you know, kind of starting out in life myself, and also trying to counsel people who were going through the same thing. So I would say that was the biggest challenge. It was just, recognizing and being honest about the similarities I had with my athletes, but then again, having to elevate myself because I was their coach. And so having to draw that line between, that swimmer and diver and coach relationship.
At Canisius, what were some of your biggest accomplishments?
So I was so proud of our swimmers. We had a smaller team, but they worked incredibly hard. And while I was there, we actually ended up breaking 41 school records. We moved up. We were in the Metro Atlantic Athletic Conference, the MAAC. We moved up in standings, and the team grew. Even though we, didn't necessarily have great scholarship packages to offer yet, we were able to find some young athletes that, wanted to be part of a growing program. And so being able to break those school records and have them leave their mark on the program is something that I was really proud of them and really appreciated getting to be a part of that.
Following your time at Canisius as the head coach, what was that transition like from going from being your head coach to then going to be a volunteer assistant at Ohio State?
Yeah, so that goes back to recognizing that my path was a little unusual, jumping right into a head coaching position. I had the opportunity to go to the College Swim Coaches Association, World Clinic. It was the College Swim Coaches Clinic in the spring of, it would have been 2008. So it was about to be the Olympics. So everybody was abuzz with that. And I had gone to a session for women's coaches, and just having the opportunity to meet other people like me was something that I really appreciated. But in hearing their backgrounds and their stories, it was very different than mine. And I acknowledged that if I wanted to continue in this career, I needed to go and learn from somebody. That piece was really important to me so that I could be the best coach I could be for my swimmers. And so I met Bill Wadley at one of the, socials, and I just was so intrigued. Growing up in Cleveland, I knew how strong Ohio State athletics was. They had just built the new pool, and there was a lot of excitement around the program. And I just felt that I had the opportunity in front of me to learn from one of the best. And I knew I would regret it if I didn't pursue it. So while it, to some externally, may have seemed like a step backwards, to me, I was working with world-class athletes in an incredible facility. And again, able to learn from Bill Dorncott was the women's coach, Stephanie Williams at the time, now Moreno, was the assistant women's coach. Jess Book, who's now the head coach at Kenyon, was the assistant men's coach at the time. So some of the very best coaches in our country, I was able to share the pool deck with. And that was something that I would not trade that experience, at all. And I learned so very much from all of them. So it was definitely different than being a head coach, but to be able to be in that setting, it was so exciting. And it just really reinforced that this is what I wanted to do for my career.
Was following that Ohio State journey, what was that like then getting back into college coaching and becoming a head coach?
Yeah, so I had a short stint while I was at Ohio State. My daughter Adela, who is 15 now, she was a baby. And that was, I would say that was the biggest challenge of that schedule, was just recognizing that, being a mom and being present in her life was something that was important to me. And so I grew up swimming for Lakeshore Swim Club here in Rocky River, Ohio. And that head coaching position became available. And so I sort of viewed it as an opportunity that maybe I can continue coaching and doing what I love, but I also can be present, during the day, during these developmental years. So Adela spent a lot of time at the pool with me. And I really treasured that experience. They had, their head coach had left. And so being able to kind of come in and establish some new programs. Adela actually swims for Lakeshore now. So to see some of the things that we started with the board then, now just doing so incredibly well, it's really exciting to have been a part of that. But I missed coaching in college. I absolutely love this age. It is such an incredible time in our lives. I know people say it's, the best 4 years of your life. Like I've had some other really great 4 years in there too, but it's the time in your life where you get to figure out who you want to be. And so I missed coaching that age and that level of swimming and that commitment to the sport. So my dad actually graduated from Baldwin Wallace. He swam here in the 1970s. And so, I'm on the pool deck at Lakeshore Swim Club, and I looked down at my phone, and it's a Berea phone number. And I was like, Berea, who's calling me from Berea? And I answered, and it was the athletic director here at BW. And he said, we have a coaching position open. And this goes all the way back to the beginning of my career. He said, and Wally Morton from Cleveland State said that you might be interested in this job. And I said, well, yeah, I'd love to talk to you about it. And so, leaving Lakeshore and leaving those kids was something that was difficult for me, because I really did care about the swimmers and their families. But it was the opportunity to come to a place that had been really important to my dad and a lot of his close friends. And my grandfather was in the conservatory here, my mom's dad. So just a lot of connections to BW. And it was the opportunity to be back coaching at the college level. And it was just something that I couldn't say no to. And that was 12 years ago. And I have appreciated this opportunity that entire time.
Of course, what was that feeling like getting to come back to BW, where your father graduated from?
It was really neat. So growing up, you hear all of the funny stories and maybe sometimes the not so appropriate ones. And so it was sort of, as I was walking around campus, seeing some of the things that he had talked about, or some of the traditions on campus that my swimmers, if they were in a fraternity or sorority, that they were experiencing Greek sing, April rain, things that I was like, oh my gosh, that's what my dad was talking about. So that has been surreal. I guess having that connection to all of those alumni from that time, it's just been so neat to hear their stories and to appreciate them, because they were the things that I heard about growing up. And I knew how much my dad and his closest friends just loved and appreciated their time here. So I'm really happy to be able to offer that experience to our swimmers and divers now too.
What was that feeling like after you got that call and you accepted the job and stepping onto that swim deck for the first time?
Brandon, it was my first time coaching Division III. And so I had swam at the Division I level. I had coached at the Division I level. And so it was something I kind of looked across the pool, and this is not a knock on Division I and II swimming. I really want to be clear when I say that, because I know those athletes are so very passionate about what they do. But I looked in the pool and I thought, they are all here because they love swimming. There's not a scholarship that's driving them to be here. And that was the first time that I really understood the passion that drives Division III athletics. And I recognized in that first season here at BW that this is where I was meant to be. All of those, the learning that I had done and the people I had met through, my first 9 or 10 years coaching really did bring me to this place that I think I was meant to be at. So it was a surreal moment, but a really wonderful one too.
What does a typical swim meet look like for you as a head coach versus for your swimmers?
Yeah, so that's a great question. I would love to say that I am completely calm, cool, and collected. But typically those early mornings before the meets, there's a lot of moving pieces and parts. Our team has grown. When I first got here, we had about 20 to 22 swimmers and divers on the men's and women's team combined. Now this next year, we're slated to have 51. So the team has grown considerably. So there are a lot of logistics involved in having that many people move in the same direction. So they're busy. There's often, as our team has become more competitive, there's that sort of nervous feeling in your belly. Even though I'm not the one racing anymore, I still get nervous for my athletes. I want them to achieve the way that, they hope to. So there are some nerves. I would like to think for our swimmers and divers that they come in the pool and they're like, okay, coach has everything under control and they can focus on what they're doing. But I am very fortunate that I have a group that if something needs to be done, they pitch in and help out. So I do appreciate that. We do, the teams that we travel to are typically within about a 3-hour radius. So we don't have too many overnights other than our invitational and our conference championship. But travel days are different than home meet days just because you're moving everybody somewhere else.
Of course, who are some of those teams that you face in your conference?
Yeah, so our conference has John Carroll, Ohio Northern, Mount Union, Wilmington, Heidelberg, and then Baldwin Wallace. So there's currently 6 teams in the swimming and diving championship. Within the Ohio Athletic Conference, which is the OAC, there are those 6 schools, and then also Marietta, Capital. I'll think of them. It's going to take me a second, but there's 10 schools. There's 4 more that don't sponsor swimming and diving.
Of course, what is that like getting to compete against Ohio Northern at their facility versus getting to compete against Ohio Northern at your facility?
So, Brandon, even though we all compete in 25-yard pools, I try to say, do you remember that scene in Hoosiers where they get to the state championship and he shoots the from the foul shot line and he's like, it's the same here as it is at our gym back home, and they're in this big arena and that it's supposed to help them recognize that it's the same. Well, I'd like to say a pool is a pool. There's 4 walls and a bottom that hold water. But truthfully, blocks are different. Walls can feel different or have a different material on them. The touch pads might be different in certain places or the gutter system. So, when we're swimming at home, you're at home, your pool, your blocks, your walls. So I think there's a comfort to that. When we go swim at another pool, for instance, Ohio Northern, you have to take that time to get used to the facility, or for our divers to get used to different diving boards. So I would say that's the only challenge or difference. But deep down, what we're supposed to say is a pool is a pool. You just get up and swim fast.
Of course, as a head coach, what is it like seeing your divers and your swimmers compete at the high level and achieve great things?
Yeah, I think that's why we all do this. I say it's that look when a swimmer hits the wall, or when one of our divers, finishes a dive that they've been working at and trying to master throughout the whole season. It's that look on their face when they come up above the water, or when they turn and they, see their time up on the scoreboard. That's the best part of this. The process is challenging. They have to work really, really hard. And we ask a lot of them on top of being great students and great members of the community. And oftentimes they have jobs in addition to everything else that they're doing. So to be able to see them in that moment as a swimmer or a diver, and achieve their goals, I think that's what keeps us coming back year after year.
Of course, for those prospective student athletes, what does that official visit look like at Baldwin?
Yeah, so at BW, we start the recruiting process in really the spring of their junior year, that March, April time. Some coaches start it earlier. I am our only full-time coach on staff, so I handle our recruiting. So I just sort of follow a typical cycle. We'll start reaching out to them in spring of their junior year. A lot of swimmers or divers will make their first visit to campus over the summer, where I'll just give them a quick tour and meet with them about our program. I always say those first visits are really just supposed to help you know, is this a place I want to continue pursuing? Is this a place I want to apply? We really do encourage coming back for that official visit in the fall or winter of your senior year, just because that's when you get to go to a class and meet with a professor, meet with an admissions counselor about that whole process. And truthfully, the best part, I'd like to believe that, I'm charming and wonderful and everybody likes spending time with me, but the best part of our program is our team. And so when you come back for those official visits, you get to spend time with the swimmers and divers, eat meals with them at the dining hall, which I love our food here. But eat meals at the dining hall, spend a night in the dorms, and really get to see what it would be like to be a student athlete at BW. So, that's kind of what that visit looks like, and why we encourage it so much is I think it helps them see what their day-to-day life would be like here.
As a head coach, what is it like seeing those freshmen put on that swim uniform for the first time and your seniors putting that swimsuit on for the last time?
Oh, goodness. We talk a lot about pride. So our school colors are brown and gold. Not always the most obvious color combination, but I think we make it look really good. So we talk a lot about having pride in wearing brown and gold, like, so many athletes have done before us, and that, really, it's not necessarily the driving force behind all of it, but a big piece of why we do what we do is to make our alumni proud of the program that they've left. And so when you do have, those swimmers and divers that their first meet, they come out in their BW suit, or they put their cap on, they're in their warm-ups. It is something that, I don't mean to keep using the word, but it is surreal. It's obviously a very big moment in their life. And so to see that pride that they have is something that's really special. And as their coach, I appreciate. By the time they're seniors, we've known them since they were, some of them, juniors in high school. So, you develop that relationship. I think sometimes, I spend more time, depending on the time of year, more time with our team than I do my husband and my daughter sometimes, right? My daughter's a high school swimmer. My husband's busy with his job. And so sometimes we're ships passing in the night. But our swimmers and divers and our staff, I'm around all the time. So by the time they're seniors, they are extensions of my family, and to see them grow through their 4 years, and to see the incredible young men and women that they are, and all of the experiences they've had as swimmers and divers at BW, to see them in their last race or their last competition as a diver, that's something that it's definitely emotional. And you just want it to be everything that they want it to be. And so when it is, it's exciting. Oftentimes there's tears and hugs, and that's one of the best things about the job, is going through that experience with them and seeing them have that full college career and college experience.
As a head coach, what is it like seeing your swimmers go in and do great things outside of the program, whether it's getting into college coaching or competing nationally?
So we have a number of swimmers who are coaching or alumni of our program who are coaching at the high school level. A lot of our current swimmers, that's what they do during the summer, is they're summer coaches. And that's something that I think every coach loves, right? That they are enjoying their experience, and it's something that they want to do and maybe want to give back to the sport. So I think that there's definitely a pride piece in it, that I'm so proud of our swimmers and divers that are out there coaching and trying to bring up this next generation of swimmers. And, hopefully leaving those positive marks on the sport. We do have some swimmers and divers that will go on and compete in masters after they graduate. And so again, that's something, it warms your heart to know that they love the sport so much that they want to continue with it.
You can talk about, of course, the culture that you've built for the BW program.
Yeah. So what we like to say, Brandon, is that we have a team first mentality. So, I know that outside of the pool, they're juggling, again, studies, community organizations that they're a part of, jobs, family, social life. There's so many different things that they're responsible for and responsible to. What we ask is that in those choices that they're making outside of here, if they can continue to put the team first in the words that you're using with teammates, put the team first, be kind, be respectful. And that's something that actually started during COVID. Before we started recording, we talked a lot about the impact that COVID had. Well, that was something that for our team to be able to continue competing that year, that was, so much uncertainty. We had to put the team first. That, you may want to go to that Halloween party. We're going to say, maybe not the best choice, and we want our team to keep competing. So put the needs of the team above your own. And it sort of grew from there, honestly. And sometimes it's a joking thing, somebody will make fun of somebody for something, and the response will be, well, that's not very team first. And we joke, we laugh about it, but it is something that I think every single person on our team, if you asked them, what is the culture of your program, that would be their response: team first. And that's as a coach, that's what you want, right? Is for us to all be on the same page and moving in the same direction. I tell our recruits when they visit, if you be the best that you can be for our team, let me focus on helping you be the best individual you can be in the pool. And, if you're the very best you can be as an individual, then that's going to be what helps our team.
What are some of your future plans moving forward?
Oh, Brandon, we want to win a conference championship. That's, that I think is the driving force. I have an incredible staff. Our assistant coaches, they all have their full-time jobs that they do outside of here. But they absolutely love swimming and they love diving, and they want to be a part of this program and the growth that we've experienced. So we talk a lot about, that next step is winning a conference championship. And it's exciting as you sort of every time you are just a little bit closer, that's really exciting for our staff. And I know our team experiences it as well. I think Baldwin Wallace is a great institution. I think we offer a lot to our athletes, as far as their development, as a whole person in their 4 years here. So I would say next steps is we want to be competitive at the national level as well, and help continue to spread the great, great experience that our swimmers and divers are having here.
What advice would you give those high school athletes looking to get into college swimming?
I would say that's a great question, Brandon. There is a place for everybody. There is. So if you love this sport and it's something that you want to do and you want to continue competing and be the best swimmer or the best diver you can be, continue to look for that right place. Not everybody is going to be able to swim at Ohio State. And that doesn't mean that you shouldn't be swimming in college. There's so many opportunities out there. And so I would encourage you to work with your club coach or your high school coach, work with your guidance counselor. They have those searches that you can do. And a lot of our swimmers that come to us, they'll say, I put in the program I wanted to study, that I wanted it to have men's swimming and diving, and that it needed to be in the Midwest, and Baldwin Wallace came up and you had sent me an email. And so I came to visit. So there are opportunities for everybody. If you are passionate about this sport, don't give up on it. Continue on that path, so that you can achieve your goals.
What advice would you give those first-year students entering collegiate athletics for swimming?
Use your planner. Really practice good time management. Ask questions, and not just of the coaches. Use those resources in the upperclassmen that are experts, right? They've been through it for multiple years, so they know what's going on. So don't be afraid to ask for help, or if you're not sure about something. I think everybody acknowledges that there's a transition and it's your first year. So nobody expects you as a freshman to know it all, or to do everything right. So take that pressure off of yourself. And additionally, just enjoy it. I said it a few minutes ago, this is the best time of your life. And you get to be a swimmer or a diver. So enjoy that time. Make a lot of friends, try new things, and practice good time management.
What advice would you give those college athletes entering and looking to go into competitive swimming professionally?
Yeah, that's great. Find a good club team. I think that for anybody who is interested in swimming professionally, there are a lot of club programs, some more of the elite level programs that do start that professional group. So finding a coach that wants to work with you through those post-collegiate years, and can, help make those national level meets available to you, to have a team to compete with, relays to race with. That would be my advice, is find a great club coach that can help guide you through that experience.
What advice would you give those swimmers looking to get into college coaching right after college?
Well, I always use my own example that, there's some coaches that say, I knew from the first day I started, in my sport, that I wanted to be a coach someday. That's not exactly how it happened for me. So I would say, if you think that you want to pursue coaching as your career, whether it's in swimming and diving or really any sport, is to start building your network. Both the school that you're at, but then within the conference as well. I think all of us want to see our sport continue to grow. And so that happens by bringing up young coaches, right? I know I seem youthful, but I'm not going to be able to coach forever, right? So it is part of my responsibility to help bring up that next generation of coaches, just like our coaches did for us. So if it is something that you're interested in, don't be hesitant to just say to somebody, hey, how did you get into coaching? What did you do? And I'm certain that you'll hear a lot of different experiences and stories, and it might help guide you on your path then.
What advice would you give those head coaches looking to get started in coaching and building their own program?
Ask for help when you need it. I think so often in a lot of different professions, Brandon, of course, but definitely in the coaching profession, there can sometimes be that pressure to always have the right answer, always know what to do. And we're human. So the most challenging thing for me personally is to ask for help. I do not like to admit when I can't do something. And so I would give that advice that if you are starting a program, there's going to be a huge learning curve, a lot of hurdles to jump. And so surround yourself by people who believe in what you're doing and lean on them and ask them for help when you need it.
That's great advice. Where can my listeners find you at on social media along with the program?
So we love Instagram here at Baldwin Wallace. So you can follow us at Baldwin Wallace Swimming Diving. So it's lengthy. We make you work for it, but it's okay. And then we're also, we have our Baldwin Wallace Swimming and Diving Facebook page. We're on Twitter as well. The handle's BWU_swim dive. And then also you can search me, Laura Demaline. I'm happy to connect with anybody that's interested and continue, to help our sport and our program grow.
Thank you again, Coach Laura Demaline, for your interview, and best of luck in your future at Baldwin Wallace as the head swimming coach.
Thank you so much, Brandon. It was great talking with you.
You can find Brandon Sports Talk on Instagram at Brandon Sports Talk, Twitter at Talk_Brandon, and you can find me on YouTube at Brandon Sports Talk. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you again, Lauren, for your interview, and best of luck in your future.
Thank you. You too.
You've been watching Brandon Sports Talk. Please feel free to like, share, and subscribe to Brandon Sports Talk on social media and on YouTube.